you can't hear mirrorless cameras. Click, click. Hello everyone, this is Taka from bigheadtaco.com, and I am coming to you here from Push Pull Cafe on East Hastings between Maine and Columbia. If you're in the hood, you want some good coffee, and you need to buy some film, Max will be able to help you, as well as Nicole. They have Ektar, Tri-X, they have Portra film, 135 and you have 120 as well, right? Yes, actually it looks like he only has 120, maybe he doesn't have 135. Do you have 135?
Only Tri-X.
Only Tri. So only in Tri-X is there 135, everything else medium format. So you gotta be a hardcore photographer, but if you want your coffee and you want 120 film, Push Pull Cafe is where it's at. I'm here to do my first impressions as well as the announcement of quite a few brand new Fujifilm products. One new camera, one new body, and one new lens. As you can tell by the title, it is going to be on the Fujifilm X-T. Oh, like I still got the sticker on here. That wasn't a very sexy review, was it? Let's do it again. The new X-T20. So this is a review on my first impressions on the X-T20, but as well I have on here the brand new XF18-55mm f2.WR, part of that new, as I call, the Fujicron system. So this will be a separate video, but I will touch on a little bit. And I did start off this video using the new Fujifilm X100F, which is probably the one camera that everyone will be excited, and there'll be like 300 videos and articles on this. But I don't think there will be a lot of articles on this because there's very few of these around. And so thank you so much Fujifilm Canada for sending this out to me. I actually got a pretty early pre-production, the firmware is pre-production. The hardware I think is pretty close to full production. And just by the way, the fit and finish, I've played with pre-production cameras before, but I'm just looking at here, yeah, it actually says sample. So this is probably a final pre-production copy before they start making the production, but it's pretty much the same as the original X-T10. And so let's start this review of the X-T20 now. Let's do a little bit of a review of the history of this X-T series. When Fujifilm first came out with the X100 and the X-Pro2, it was clearly a retro styling camera, and many film photographers as well as like Leica photographers that are used to shooting rangefinder cameras were immediately drawn to the cameras. And it seemed like the gist of the X series was this retro styling, and what changed that was the X-T1. When that came out just a few years after the XE2, I guess. I should have written all these dates down, but when that came out, it was clearly in a DSLR-like form factor. It appealed to many photographers because yes, it had that retro look still, but it had an articulating screen, lots of knobs. It was weather sealed. It had the option of a vertical control grip, a power grip, and it was a great camera for a lot of photographers that, of course, they like the styling, but they wanted the performance and the speed. And then just a little bit after that, they announced the X-T10, which was, many would say, the little brother to the, so this is X-T2, but it was the little brother to the X-T1. Had the same sensor, same processor, but it was quite a bit cheaper. Now, it was not weather sealed, and because of it was smaller, the buttons and everything a little bit closer, and instead of having a ISO dial on this side, it's more the control drive dial, which I liked. And the first gen X-T1, I actually didn't like the flush buttons, and everything seemed gummy and tight. And the X-T10, however, felt really, although it was smaller, it felt really nice in terms of the ergonomics and the functionality of the buttons. So when I had a choice between the X-T1 and the X-T10, I actually preferred the X-T10. Now, the X-Pro2 came out, the X-T2 came out. They were both pro bodies, so it had the latest 24 megapixel X-Trans 3 sensor, as well as the new X Processor Pro. Maybe there's no X on it, but the Pro processor. And what I was waiting for was the consumer level cameras, the XE2, I guess it'll be called the XE3 perhaps, but the XE series, the X-T10, X-T20, the double-digit series, what processor would they put in there? Because they use the designation Pro for the 3rd generation processor, would that only be for the Pro series cameras, so the X-Pro2, the X-T2, as well as the X100 series? Because I would consider this a Pro level camera. Or would they create a X processor 3 consumer level? So what did Fujifilm do? Well, I am happy to announce that the X-T20 has, of course, the same sensor as the X-Pro2 and the X-T2 from what I can see. As well, it has the X-Pro processor. Now, I could be wrong in terms of the naming because I wasn't given a catalog. I'm shooting this video even before Fujifilm has released the official press release, because us as reviewers, as press, so like myself and other like DP review, they'll get this information earlier than everybody else so that we can release it on the day of the embargo release. And so they haven't released that to me because Fujifilm there's a leak. A lot of this stuff gets out, it doesn't matter what brand, unless information gets out early. And so Fuji's being very careful. So I've only spoken to Billy on the phone about this camera. He actually helped me to upgrade the firmware. So thank you so much, Billy, for that. It was a very complex, he sent me the files, but he said there's no way you can figure this out on your own. So I upgraded this. This still is not the final firmware. And as I mentioned, because I don't have the exact naming of everything, I don't know if this is the the processor Pro that's the same as the that's in the X-Pro2 as well as the X-T2 or the X-Pro2. But I can tell you something that makes me convinced that this is the Pro processor is because the X-T20 has 4K video. Now, to me, that blows my mind because the X-Pro2 does not have 4K video. And one of the reasons why Fujifilm said was because it gets too hot, even though it's the same processor and sensor as the X-T2, that because of the diminutive size or the smaller size of the X-Pro2, that they couldn't dissipate the heat quick enough. But the X-T20 is definitely lighter and smaller than the X-Pro2, but they're able to squeeze 4K video into this. Now, I don't think you can do the 30-minute 4K like the X-T2 can, because the X-T2 still needs the booster grip to be able to do that. This has no booster grip. But so my guess is probably anywhere between 7 to 10 minutes of straight 4K video. I haven't fully tested that yet because again, this is pre-production until I get the final firmware. But this does have 4K video, which I'm pretty excited about. And I was going through a lot of the functionality in terms of focus and stuff. It has that feature in the X-T2 where you can set the continuous to the various types of, like if it's erratic or if something's coming towards you, but it doesn't have the very accurate adjustments, but again, that could change with firmware. So that's one of the big things. Another thing is this is not WR, so that's another distinguishing feature between the X-T20 and the Pro series, the X-Pro2 and the X-T2 is this is not WR. Body-wise, it is, I'm gonna take this lens off here. In terms of the body, I took pictures. These two cameras, now even though cameras might look exactly the same, like the X100F and the X100T, so look for that video. So it looks identical, but there's slight differences. So between these two, I looked at, even on the bottom plate, I'm looking at where all the screws and stuff are. So I did get a confirmation from Billy that the vertical grip from the X-T10 will work on the X-T20. So if you have the X-T10, you have all the X-T10 accessories, it will all fit onto the X-T20. So that's a good thing. So in terms of body, there was no body upgrade. The biggest difference in terms of the body, the only difference that I can see is the new exposure compensation dial, which the new format now has the new C mode. So if you go into C, it allows you to go plus or minus 5 stops. But personally, I think if you were exposure compensating by +5 or -5, you should just learn how to shoot manually and go to manual mode. So that's different, as well as the dedicated red video button that's really inset, and I always hated that. Fujifilm on the X-T2 made it so that you go into video mode and you use the shutter button to start and stop video. But guess what? The X-T20 also has the same mode. So if you're in video mode, all you have to do is use the shutter button, which is the ideal. This button here now is a custom function button, which I think you could have done on the X-T10 anyways, but with the red, obviously it was meant to be a video button. And so that's the two only differences to the body that you can see between the X-T10 and the X-T20. In terms of weight, I didn't bring Camera Girl's baking scale with me, but I think I actually did weigh it though. It was like slightly heavier, and that would make sense, I guess. And so that's the external differences, but internally, when I shoot between, so I'm gonna just put a lens back on here. Actually, what I'll do is I will put this lens back on, the 23 f2, which is a fantastic lens. I did a review of it while I was in Osaka, and I really like this lens here. So comparing it to the X-T2, one might say, just like the X-T1, why would I go with the X-T1 if I can buy the X-T10? So same question again, why would I get the X-T2 if I can just buy the X-T20? So I've already mentioned it, weather sealing. Fujifilm has done a fantastic job on the X-T2. When I first got it, I didn't even realize it was weather sealed because it was done so well. So in terms of like feel, there's no difference. In fact, I actually prefer the X-T2 because there's more space. This little thumbs up, little grip here is thicker. It's just, when I was shooting with gloves on with the X-T2, it was fine. When I was shooting with gloves on with the X-T20, not fine. And so that's one of the differences. Another one is you have a dedicated ISO dial. This one you do not. You have to still you have to make one of the custom features ISO. So that is a big deal, as well as the EVF, big difference. Largest EVF on the market still, I think. Way faster refresh rate. Even Billy didn't have the numbers on this, but it looks pretty much like the old X-T10. So clearly this is the pro body. This is a consumer grade body, but it does have the same sensor and the same processor as this. And it'll be great to see once all the specs come out about 4K. I'm guessing it'll probably be limited to about 8 to 10 minutes maximum on 4K video. And with this one here, again, with the grip, you can go further. I don't think there's plans for a power grip for this because I don't see how it will connect. There is no connection points. They just have the little spots where you would put that the control grip on the X-T20. The pricing on the X-T20, it was not yet released. I don't know the pricing on it, but my guess, like the X-T10, this would be, I was told it will be a little bit more expensive than the original X-T10, and that makes sense because you're getting a 24 megapixel camera, you're getting 4K video. I mean, everything is upgraded on this in terms of the internal specs. So what I did in the past was to do a comparison between these two, and in the past there was no 23 f2 lens. So what I did was I think I used this 27 f2.8 pancake, and I was even doing a weight test and trying to compare the two. But now there actually is a 23mm f2. So this lens is, I should have checked, 400 US. This body is about 1,000 US. So together it'll be like somewhere around 1,400. I could be way off, but I'll probably correct myself if I am wrong. So there's a 23 f2, 24 megapixel APS-C camera, reasonably compact. This is also a 23 f2 APS-C compact camera with a 24 megapixel sensor, but no 4K video. As I mentioned, I'll have a separate video on this, but I think this will really be the true showdown. I don't think the real comparison with the X-T20 is with the X-T10, just a completely different monster. As well, X-T2 versus X-T20, I can see some guys using this as a backup to this. I don't think it's like you're either choosing this or this. I think if you want this, you're gonna get this. And I'm actually shooting this with the X-Pro2, but again, X-Pro2, X100 series, any of the hybrid optical viewfinder, rangefinder style with no articulating screen, that's just a different category. But I think these two, not that they're in the same category, but people that are wanting to spend around $1,500 US, that are into the Fujifilm ecosystem, that probably has already an X series body with lenses and wants a backup camera. Many might say, well, should I choose the X100 or should I choose the XT series, so the X-T20 now? So I will do a separate video showdown between these two cameras. I think they'll be very close. In terms of, I think optical performance, I will probably still prefer this one, but we will see. So look out for a separate video for this coming up. It'll probably be like all out at the same time. So that's X100F versus the X-T20. I had to insert this video because there's one feature that I forgot to mention, which is that the X-T20 has a touch screen. And so like the X70, this is a very first gen attempt for touchscreen. So like the X7, you can see it has that mode here. So one of the modes that, okay, so the X-Pro2, the X-T2, and the X100F, they all have joysticks, right? This does not have a joystick, but it does have an area mode where if you're in area mode, you can choose your focus points, but it will not shoot. So that is one of the cool features. And if you pick that and then it switches over to the screen mode, it won't move. So I thought that was a pretty neat feature. And then of course you can go to the off mode and you can actually, so you know that when you're in the X series, there is one screen mode that's called custom, and you can actually turn this completely off so that some people might not want to use touch screen for anything and just completely turn it off. So you can just off, meaning you don't even see that icon, because you can, I did find sometimes that I accidentally pressed this, I had it off, I pressed it by accident, and then it goes to touch focus mode or touch like shoot and focus. So it does have that mode where if it is on shot mode, it means you press it, it will pick that and shoot. Right? Or if you put AF, it means it won't shoot, but it will focus on where you press, which is another pretty cool feature. And so, or again, then from there it cycles to area. So now you're just picking the focus points, but it won't even focus for you. So you can separate focus point, picking the focus point, and then you can still use the back focus to then focus. Is that working? No, that's the autofocus lock button. Yeah, so you can Fuji, you should still switch this. The focus button, AFL should be on the inside. AEL should be on the other side. You can custom change that, but anyway, so it has that. And then once you're in play mode, like the X70, you can use this to zoom, pinch and zoom, to scroll through, which is kind of neat. But in terms of menu, I'm gonna go into a menu item here. You cannot use this in menu, and that's what the Canon camera touchscreen is it's a very mature touchscreen where you can scroll through all the menus, you can press play, you can press start. But anyways, it's a first gen attempt. It means that with firmware updates, they can probably implement touch menu navigation and other implementations of touch screen, but it's great if you want it there. So that is another feature. If you have an X70 and you love that touch screen, and for instance, you're shooting street, you're using articulating screen, and you do the touch shot mode, you just have to touch the screen, and whatever you see, you touch it, it will focus and shoot. But with the speed of the new, if you have like the WR F2, the Fujifilm series, blazing fast focus, it locks on, super accurate. So for street photography, shooting incognito down low like this camera is probably gonna be one of the fastest shooting from the hip cameras in the entire Fujifilm lineup. And that is not something to take lightly. If that is the style of shooting that you've gotten used to, where you just touch a screen and you shoot pictures, this is blazing fast. So that is my insert on the touchscreen. Sorry for missing that my first time around. Thank you. So overall, I'm pretty excited about the X-T20. As I said, I was surprised that they put the Pro processor, which is probably why the 4K video works in here, unless they redid the algorithm for 4K that's different than the X-T2. But I don't know, so we will find out. So for those of you that end up buying the X-T20, bonus, you get 4K video. And I think this camera then is a foreshadowing of all the other X series bodies. So we know the XE2S will eventually get upgraded at some point, and perhaps there'll be the X70 will be upgraded perhaps. That was kind of a late camera that came out last year, 2017, yes, it came out last year, so we'll see when, at what point will that be upgraded to this. The XA3 is a little bit different. Even the XA2 and the XA1, it had a Bayer style, the AA filter APS-C sensor. So even though it's the same megapixel, the X-A3, it is a different sensor and a different processor. So that doesn't really count when we're comparing these cameras here. So the X-T20, I've been testing it with the XF50 f2. Again, I'll do a separate video of just this lens, but this is a really, actually no, here we go. So this is the lens here, the 50 f2, great lens. It performs just like the other lenses, but as a combination, a short tele or a telephoto standard work really well together. All the X series lenses work really well. The Fujifilm's really got their game on when it comes to this third generation sensor as well as processor. So image quality wise, it's pretty much the same as what I got out of the X-T2 and the X-Pro2. Again, the only real difference is the EVF. I noticed is definitely, it is a lower level than what's in the X-T2, which is already sort of industry leading anyway, so I wouldn't have expected this consumer grade level to equal this. But even with the X-Pro2, I found the EVF more consistent on the X-Pro2. And in terms of shooting speed, I found, again, because everything is a little bit smaller, it's not as nice to shoot with as with the Pro series. I got used to it, but if you do want a compact APS-C size camera, I mean, this is a fantastic option. So thank you so much for watching. Look for a long-term, like a full review on the X-T20 coming soon, as well as I mentioned, a comparison with the X100F, and we will see how well this performs. And as well, I don't really know what color options there are. Probably will have a silver version and a black version, but this black version looks super stealthy. I really like it. So again, thank you so much for watching. Coming to you here from Push Pull Cafe in East Vancouver. I do appreciate you watching. Don't forget to go ninja on the like button and leave comments down below if you have any comments or questions for me, and we'll talk to you soon. Happy shooting.